Now, when I was in the Army, I remember a story I heard from a really good friend of mine who was going through the Q course with me. He was stationed in Panama, Fort Sherman, back in the, I guess it would have been the 1990s sometime, early 90s. Anyway, he was a private and he worked as a cook. And he worked in the on-post chow hall, doing things that you'd expect a private to do, peeling potatoes, whatever else, low-end stuff. But he was assigned to the 7th Special Forces Group, which back then had a unit in Panama. Now, he was not a Green Beret qualified guy, but he still got to jump out of airplanes with them. Everybody in that unit was airborne qualified. And to maintain your status as an airborne qualified soldier and get paid your monthly allowance for being airborne qualified, you would have to jump a minimum of once every 3 months. Now, if you're in an airborne unit, chances are you'll probably do it more often than that. One day, there was a jump coming up, and he was scheduled to jump. There were some Green Berets in the jump, and there were some cooks and some other people going to jump and maintain their status. So he goes out, and he sees that getting ready for the jump, which involved putting on not just the parachute, but the rucksack and your weapon, helmet, combat equipment, they call it. It's how they train normally, because you got to train the way you fight. So you jump with everything on you. That's the way it's supposed to be done. The Green Berets were doing that. He and his buddies were going to jump with what their gear would be. And he notices that the Green Berets were coming into the kitchen and they were wrapping up their M16s in butcher paper, which is sort of like paper bag paper. And as they wrap these things up, he said, what are they doing then? And his buddy says, oh yeah, they're wrapping up the weapons because, the drop zone, it's all mud and it's wet. And if you drop in there with your weapon, you land on your side, it's going to get caked with mud. You're going to spend all afternoon cleaning it. So they're wrapping it up with butcher paper. So once they drop, just take the paper right off, discard it, put the weapon on the rack, and go about their day. Said, hey, that's a good idea. So he and his buddies start wrapping up the weapon with paper. Well, along comes this senior Green Beret sergeant. He looks down and says, Private, what are you doing? Hey, well, Sergeant, we're wrapping up the weapon with paper. He said, how are you going to deploy that? How are you going to use that weapon if you have to load it and fire it? He said, well, Sergeant, we're just doing what the Green Berets over there do. Am I talking to them? Or am I talking to you? I'm talking to you. So you know how this conversation went. Well, this Green Beret sergeant, just to tell you who he was, he later on became a member of the Golden Knights parachute team. He was actually involved in a horrific mid-air collision where he lost both his legs, almost died. And they managed to save him. He hit the other parachutist at about 150 miles an hour. It was horrible. There's videos out there you can find. I'm not going to post them here. Then later on, he became a motivational speaker, and he's written books. Really a decent guy, but this is where he wasn't such a nice guy. And he was trying to make these privates learn a lesson, but at the same time, not really doing as I say, because I don't know if he put butcher paper on his weapon. I don't know if he was on that jump, but the other Green Berets were doing that. So what kind of lesson is that really teaching? He tells the privates, all right, you can put some paper up top on the muzzle, keep the dirt out of the muzzle. You can put some paper right here, some tape on the magazine well, keep that out. And you can put a little bit on the buttstock, because the buttstock's got this waffle pattern plastic on it, gets all full. You can do that, yeah. So those 3 small areas, you can do that, and that'll keep dirt and the mud out without making it so that you can't put a magazine in the weapon if you really have to. Okay, whatever, they did that. All the Green Berets had their weapons wrapped. Everybody got ready for the jump. They all went outside, and of course it's Panama, and it's the jungle, and it's moist, and probably just about to rain. And they get in the airplane with their equipment, go to the drop zone, everybody jumps out, and they all land, and of course they land right in the mud. And all the Green Berets, when they get back, they just peel their paper right off, put the weapon on the rack, done with their day. And of course the privates, they're stuck with these weapons that are just caked in mud. And they're spending all afternoon cleaning these things when they're off that drop zone. And his Puerto Rican buddy says to him, says, hey man, I know exactly what we're going to do. We're going to get back at that motherfucker. I got a plan. So later on, this friend and the private, they start going around the kitchen with spatulas. And they're smacking cockroaches, putting them in a bowl, saving them, setting them aside. And then that morning, they're in there on breakfast shift, preparing all the grill and getting everything ready. And as soon as they let all the troops in, a lot of people, they want to go up and get an omelet. Well, in walks this sergeant who had just lectured them the other day. Says, morning, Private. And he notices he's snickering a little bit. What's so funny? He's like, nothing, Sergeant. What can I do for you? All right, well, I'll have an omelet, a little bit of ham, some onions, mushrooms maybe. Yeah, sure. So the way this grill was structured, you really couldn't see what was going on behind there. The private and his buddy, they're back there making the omelets, put the egg down, throw a little cheese in there, little onions, little ham, the mushrooms and reach down and grab some cockroaches, chopped up cockroaches inside the omelet. And they fold the omelet over and you can't really see what's in there. They get it ready, they put it up top. Sergeant grabs it, goes down the line, gets his orange juice, milk, coffee, whatever else. He goes and sits down, and these two guys are still working there behind the counter, just watching out of the corner of their eye. And they watch him, and he sits down, and he eats the omelet. He ate the whole damned thing. Did not notice there were any cockroaches in that omelet, and these cooks are howling silently. All they could do not to just burst out laughing. And that guy went on, never knew, to this day doesn't know, he probably still doesn't know. The moral of the story, never, ever, I don't care where you are, never mess with cooks. Don't do it. Just don't mess with cooks. In the Army or out of the Army. Anywhere. Have a nice day.